So, I'm going to start out just by introducing myself to you as a person. I just recently got a Facebook message from somebody who wrote to me on my personal Facebook page saying, Proposition 1 is about gay rights? What's going on? So I looked up Facebook, and by golly, it was. And we've been using the name Proposition 1 since 1990, and the idea being the very first thing we have to do is to get rid of nuclear weapons and use the money instead to shut down the war machine and clean up the mess. But it started out in front of the White House. I'll hand that to you and you can circulate it. In 1984, I had just moved to Washington, D.C. and was working for the National Wildlife Federation. And I encountered a vigil in front of the White House and had been there for 3 years. And I quit my job and gave everything I owned to my daughter and joined the vigil and married the founder of the vigil, William Thomas. And we were married for 25 years before he died. And I was personally out in front of the White House for 18 of those years. And that was in 1984. And in 1993, we brought, in the mid-1980s, we started circulating a petition asking for the U.S. and the then USSR to agree to abolish their nuclear weapons and use the money for human needs. And it was very, very popular when people would stop by and talk to us, particularly people from other countries. And we collected thousands and thousands of signatures. I would personally go up on Capitol Hill and try to convince the representatives to introduce the idea as a bill, and of course was totally ignored. So somebody came to town who had been part of a voter initiative campaign in Arizona, the Impeach Meekum campaign, and he said, what you need to do is have a voter initiative. So that's what we did, and we won it, much to the surprise of most everybody. We got 64% of the vote, which is pretty high, particularly since we didn't have any money, and we did it from in front of the White House. With the help of a lot of people who went around to the communities and collected signatures. And as a result of winning the election for 11 sessions now, since 1994, every 2 years, Eleanor Holmes Norton, the delegate for the District of Columbia, she's not a representative because Washington, D.C. is not a state, and she doesn't have the right to vote in Congress, but she does have the right to introduce bills. And so she's been introducing various versions of this bill, which we call Proposition 1, but in this session it's called the Nuclear Weapons Abolition and Economic and Energy Conversion Act. And what it's asking is that our government promise the world we'll get rid of all of our nuclear weapons if everybody else does, which of course we supposedly said in the NPT, but that's a crock. So we need to have a commitment that if everyone else will do it, like maybe the 2 countries that have the most reduce down to the same level and then reduce down to the next country and the next country until we all get rid of them together. That was a science fiction writer's idea about 40 years ago, and I think it's a great one. But that we will use that money, those, what is it, $100 billion a year that was on the screen a minute ago, instead for shutting down and cleaning up the nuclear weapons industries, which would arguably also be the nuclear power industries, because nuclear power plants produce weapons grade uranium and plutonium, and to convert, to transform the arms industries into mass-producing carbon-free energy systems, and transform our economy from a war economy to a clean energy economy, and also to be used for environmental restoration and for housing and healthcare and education on into the future, not just. And the idea being that it's a win-win situation for everybody. The taxpayers' money will be used to transform those industries so that people aren't losing their jobs, they're changing their jobs. And that way you can argue to the corporations why should you be against this? You're gonna make money. You're gonna be in the vanguard. You're gonna be at the front, you know. So it's really hard to get people to support. And I'm passing around here, WILPF, how many years ago, Carol, did WILPF endorse this? 2009. When we went on our yeah, Proposition 1, 2009, when we went around on our tour, we received a grant of...
No, it was endorsed before by an approval to the national, when I went to the workshop that you gave near Washington.
Okay, so anyway, it was, yeah. And thank God, it's just wonderful. I've been so grateful for so long. And so we have had this up on our website. There's a call to action that asks for support of HR-1650 and also, of course, for the U.S. Conference of Mayors. The one thing that's you should note, on the first thing I handed out on the back of it, there was the Proposition 1 has been introduced 9 times. That was 2009. And it had a slightly different name, and the language was slightly different. It has been changed. We've negotiated along the way to try to improve it. And we really would appreciate suggestions for improvement now of this version, because this version hasn't been working. The only representative that signed on is Representative Raul Grijalva, who has also done the uranium mining bill. So we need to somehow make this so that it's irresistible. And so suggestions in that regard, I would really appreciate. And my email address is on the back of this WILPF call to action. So please, if you, and my phone number I didn't put on there, but I have my cards with me here, if anybody would like to have one of my cards. And I guess that's it. Okay.
We just haven't had the energy or the ability to promote that bill properly because we have people who are doing so many things yet.
I think it can be promoted on this Facebook page because this is new, right? This Facebook page, I just got it recently and liked it. And I think, I've noticed already an increase in the likes. When you started off, I feel like I was in the beginning when you invited me to like it, Ellen. I think this is a great social media to do it. Absolutely. Or can help.
Well, when Ellen Schwartz and the program committee started talking about making us a WILPF campaign, it sounded like a lot of work. Wonderful. But, so I did manage to get us an intern with Yvonne's help. She's a college student. We brought her to the AMA and she did wonderfully well. So she's working right now, reviving our Eye on Congress and writing about the bills. And Jackie Cabasso and Alice Slater both are very enthusiastic about supporting HR 1650, but they haven't gone to their own Congress meeting. And so they said they would. They both have signed in the past, and we're to do a short, snappy little flyer and tell everybody. Actually, it's late now, but I think they'll be reintroducing it next year.
Well, it's not too late. It's never too late.
No.
It's only August.
It's August. Anyway, we'll keep trying. We don't always succeed in what we're trying to do.